Welcome folks to the first installment of your number one pit stop for everything bird related. I'm your host, Heinrich Schmuel, and this is the Bird Encyclopedia. As I'm sure most of you know, birds vary not only in plumage, size, behavior, and function, but also in song. Today, I will make it my mission to find the truest songbird. What dictates my decision, only time will tell. First of all, we must deduct what truly characterizes a songbird. From a technical standpoint, passerines are the truest songbirds. They are characterized, of course, to generally be able to produce song, but also by the anatomy of their legs and feet, which are adept for perching and have an anisodactyl configuration. Anisodactyl meaning that 3 toes face forward and 1 faces back, called the hallux. This, however, does not narrow our search, as more than half of all birds are passerines themselves. After this, we can therefore narrow our search scope further by looking at the 3 suborders of passerines: the Acanthicidae, the Tyranni, and the Passeri. The latter being the group we will focus on, being characterized by the songsters it contains. But if we continue with the technicality, we can find that perhaps the Passeri species which 1 have the necessity to control a territory and therefore need a song, and 2 also have a well-developed syrinx, which is the avian equivalent to the human larynx, the organ used for vocalization, to produce said song, might be our strongest candidates. This ornithological razor cuts out any passerines without a concrete song like waxwings, which don't need one, or brown-headed cowbirds, who don't control a definitive territory to defend. There are cases like the yellow-headed blackbird, which do fulfill requirements, but are otherwise unpleasant to the ear and thus will be disqualified, which, yes, means this podcast will be slightly biased towards what I consider a better or a worse song. Other factors which also might influence decisions on what is considered our supreme songbird may include endurance over long periods, the extensiveness of its repertoire, and whether or not the music presented is truly something I would hear from the truest songbird. Now for our candidates. First, I will introduce a few species which excel in certain categories before revealing the personally selected truest songbird. Starting off, I have decided to present a species known as the sedge warbler. Though dull in appearance, its vocal performance certainly makes up for it with its complex birdsong, demonstrating its masterful usage and manipulation of its syrinx. This bird can be found from North Africa to Western Russia within its preferred habitat, as its name suggests, of marshes and wetlands. Some may puzzle over the inclusion of this species, but it is truly one of the longest and most complex of all birdsong, earning it a place on my list. Next up, I have a bird species with a remarkable tolerance for the production of sound, repeating its song up to 20,000 times per day. This songbird is the red-eyed vireo. This tropical passerine is found across the Americas, being the most abundant vireo species in this region. Like the sedge warbler, it is comparatively dull, especially compared to its wood warbler neighbors it shares its habitat with, except for its red eye, which it is named after. Not that you'll see it, as this bird frequents leaf-covered treetops during the summer, obscuring views and annoying onlookers as it persistently continues to utter its song, taunting us mere mortals down below. If you feel this call feels familiar, it may be because you've heard it before, but might also be because it is extremely similar to the much more widespread American robin, speaking of which has the adorable Latin name of Turdus migratorius. Anyway, the red-eyed vireo's song may be simple in comparison to others, but the sheer dedication that this bird puts in definitely requires me to give it a spot on this podcast. The next species on the list can literally sing with itself. Due to its split syrinx, that vocal organ that I had referred to earlier, both sides can operate independently, hence leading to its ability to create 2 pitches at the same time. This is the gray catbird. The gray catbird is a unique bird species having an overall slate gray coloration, a dark gray crown, and a dark orange vent. This bird can be found in brush and thicket-like habitat across most of eastern North America and parts of the mid and northwest. This bird's inclusion on the list was mainly due to its interesting vocal capabilities and competency, and generally unique behavior and vibe overall. The final species before the grand reveal I believe to be a very fitting runner-up. Heck, the word song is even in this bird's name. Take a listen. This is the melody produced by the song sparrow, a common species across North America. This bird can be identified with its dark streaked feathering and otherwise drab appearance. I think I'm seeing a pattern. If you wish to find this Melospisa species, you're in luck as it inhabits a variety of environments including, but not limited to, thickets, brush, marshes, gardens, roadsides, brushy fields, streamsides, shrubby areas, woodland edges, hedgerows, as well as salt marshes. Now the reason this is a runner-up is not only because I generally enjoy the sound and that it fulfills all requirements, but also the fact that it has the most subspecies of any sparrow in North America, which means you get some good variety, so overall it seems like a pretty true songbird. But overall, in my opinion, the truest songbird is the brown thrasher. This bird is an extremely talented singer, being a mimic. Mimics are a group of birds belonging to the family Mimidae, including mockingbirds and thrashers, which are able to impersonate calls and sounds they encounter on their journeys. Take a listen to just a few of this bird's 1,100 songs or variations thereof. The brown thrasher is an elusive bird of shrubby thickets and woodland edges of southeastern Alberta to the Gulf Coast and Florida. They are dull, like many of the other songsters on the list, being mottled brown on its grayish underparts and wholly brown on its back and head. A few defining field marks of this bird are its thrush-like shape and downward curved black bill. All of my requirements are easily met with the brown thrasher, being generally aggressive birds which fiercely defend their territories and obviously make a plethora of lovely songs. This species of course makes the list due to its immense song variation as well as sheer ability to use its voice. Now, post-production of this podcast, I felt bad about eliminating half of all birds, specifically the non-passerines, aka the non-perching birds, which generally have more variety between species, including birds from ostriches to hummingbirds. Therefore, I made a short list complementing the variety of songs still acquirable within the range of species non-fulfilling of our requirements. For one, there's the common loon, a widespread diving bird found intercontinentally from North America to Europe. It can be identified with its white speckled black back, black head, and red eyes, but also its haunting wail of a call characterizing the great outdoors and nature. Truly a ghastly sound to hear reverberate through a mountain pass. My second pity selection is the red-tailed hawk, the best voice actor in the bird kingdom. Its call appears in many a Hollywood movie that involves anything desert-related and also voices over other birds, specifically the bald eagle. I selected this call purely due to its iconicism among many. If you wish to hear this bird yourself, the red-tailed hawk naturally favors open country, being a buteo species, but also can inhabit woodlands, prairie groves, mountains, plains, and roadsides. Not only does the red-tailed hawk inhabit a variety of environments, but it also greatly varies in plumage, having up to 16 different variations ranging from the black and white Harlan's to the pale-faced Creider's hawk. Finally, as my final selection for this podcast, I have chosen the sandhill crane. The sandhill crane is a relatively common species during migration periods and the summer throughout much of North America, and winters in parts of Texas and Mexico. It is a distinctive bird, being one of only 2 crane species in North America, and on top of that, its tall stature, gray plumage, and red crown already make it recognizable and easy to identify. One common mistake people do make is confusing cranes and herons, but an easy thing to remember is that in flight, cranes generally keep their necks outstretched while herons tend to fold up their necks during flight. Both, however, stick their legs out backwards while airborne, and I think that generally looks pretty goofy. I chose the sandhill crane for similar reasons to the common loon, as well as the fact it can easily be heard kilometers away, heralding the coming and going of migration during the spring and autumn, like an alarm clock for the change of seasons. Overall, all birds have their strengths, weaknesses, and defining characteristics, and just because they may lack an ability to sing well doesn't necessarily make them bad birds. But today we have found what I consider to be the most songbird, or at least a pretty darn good example of one. Well, that just about summarizes my search for the truest songbird, plus a few extra points added on, just for fun. I hope you as the audience learned something new. If you have any recommendations or suggestions for future episodes of the Bird Encyclopedia, contact me at 780-802-3144. Thanks for listening, and happy birding.